this week's episode, I'm joined by Donald D. Gilliam. He, him, co-founder of Critical Collective, LLC, and co-host of the Just Checking In podcast, and also a Survivor superfan. This week, our conversation is about intersex justice, inclusive healthcare, women redefining leadership, and more. Hi, I'm Bernadette Smith, keynote speaker and writer. Welcome to 5 Things, where I bring good vibes to DEI. There's plenty of bad news out there. This show is about the good stuff. Real progress, real stories, and ideas to help you make your work and life more inclusive. Your proof of positive change. Donald, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a Chicago native. I feel like I lead every introduction with that because I so super love my hometown. But I work in, strategy work, working with businesses and clients to support their workforce development. As you mentioned, I love Survivor, and I'm a lover of all things people.
I love it. Well, we haven't actually talked about this before, but I also love Survivor. So I was really delighted to hear that when I saw you fill out the form. So yes, I'm currently watching this week's Survivor. I am eagerly ready to read Parvati's memoir. I haven't read that yet. So yeah, big Survivor fan.
Oh, it's so nice to connect with another one. I don't have enough Survivor people in my immediate orbit. So I love that. Okay. You just made my Monday.
So Donald, in this week's 5 Things newsletter, I wrote a little bit about some of the outrage I'm feeling right now. It's kind of crazy here in Chicago. ICE has been arresting and then releasing lots of brown-skinned U.S. citizens, including nannies at a children's museum. There's just a lot of error, right? People are scared. Parents picking up their kids from school are getting hauled off. I mean, it's insane. And the U.S. Supreme Court is considering permitting conversion therapy and is likely to do so. So that's horrifying and scary. And, my partner Heather and I went to see Kamala Harris over the weekend downtown, and I didn't know sort of what to expect in terms of ICE presence, and I didn't see any, but I was definitely on edge. I was nervous about holding her hand. So it's pretty intense right now. And I think that it's affecting how people are showing up at work. I think it's affecting how people are unable to compartmentalize, to give their best. And so I wanted to kind of bring that up. It's not a good vibes thing. Well, I'll be honest. But it's definitely what's on my mind these days, Donald. How about you?
It's 100% at top of mind, not even professionally, but personally. Like I said, I very much love my hometown. I think Chicago is, in a biased opinion, one of the greatest places that we have in the country. And to see the pictures that have been painted around this kind of war zone, specifically that they've mentioned, war zone it's just meant to invoke fear. And I do not like that because it is not grounded in truth. If anything, the war zone is being, figuratively created by a certain group of people. And to think that people, families, and even kids I have seen detained, quote unquote, kidnapped by ICE agents, it's honestly it's heartbreaking, and I do not like it.
Yeah. It is heartbreaking. Condé Nast named Chicago for like the 9th year in a row top city in the world. So it's a great place to be, right? And so You're right. What's showing up in the news is absolute about how Chicago is a war zone. That's propaganda. And the reality is, I'll say it. I mean, I think the war zone is created by ICE here. So it's definitely intense. But even for folks not in Chicago, it's intense for a lot of different reasons. And so, I just think it's a good reminder for leaders to notice this stuff, to be aware, to say to folks, hey, I see what's happening out there. How are you holding up? Like to ask those types of questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Donald, can you give me a sense of what's bringing you hope these days?
That's a really great question. I have a tattoo on my right calf that says "Hope anchors the soul," and that's literally my like mantra for life. But the idea of tomorrow gives me hope. I know that sounds kind of cliche and very vague, but it's oftentimes that folks will tend to live in the past because it's comfortable or they have it as a reference point. And I am not one that always lives in the present. Like my brain is always kind of future thinking, next steps, what's going on. But knowing that tomorrow exists and knowing that you get to create what that is, I think just gives me hope in general. So that's my general view of hope.
I love that. I love that. I will say that I used to be very much a live in the future kind of person, and planning for what's next. But I have, in the past few years, become much more able to be in the present, and I think a lot of that has to do with pickleball. One more benefit for pickleball. Just gotta say it.
I love that. I'm gonna have to join you for pickleball one day.
You will. I think Brene Brown, by the way, is a big pickleballer as well. And she has said some sort of quote about pickleball teaches you to live in the present because if you don't, you're going to get hit in the face of the ball. So pretty much. All right, Donald, that's a great, good vibe, though. Really the promise of tomorrow. I'm the same way. I really do believe in the long game for all of this stuff. So, yeah, let's create a better tomorrow. And let's move into this week's good vibes. All right, the first story this week comes from Europe, where the Council of Europe approves comprehensive intersex rights framework, which sets a landmark standard by directing member states to ban non-consensual medical interventions, expand access to justice, education, healthcare, and non-discrimination protections for folks who are intersex. So this is a pretty big deal. It's the first comprehensive international human rights instrument focused solely on intersex rights.
Yeah, this was when I saw this was really good to see because I think they describe it in the article as a much needed milestone. And I think that's something that we can apply to a lot of things that are just much needed milestones. But oftentimes, so many of us live life like within the margin. So to see something at that level to be made and provide access to people that are on the margins to feel, not only to feel, but to make sure that they are included in what is going on in the now for them to have a better future. I think it's great. So kudos to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And folks, if you are wondering what intersex is, that is something that you can look up. So it's important to educate yourself. All right. Second story this week comes from New York State, which has a breakthrough law offering cancer patients relief with what's called scalp cooling therapy. This requires private insurers in New York to cover this for chemotherapy patients starting next year. And this therapy is an intervention shown to reduce hair loss in many breast cancer patients. And we know hair loss is tied to dignity and identity. So it's a pretty big deal, especially for those who might not be able to afford such a treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also reminds us of the humanity in things that we're going through. So especially for folks that are experiencing cancer and chemotherapy treatments, that is very aggressive on the body, but it can also be even more aggressive on the mind and your psyche and how things are going. So even something as what people may seem as arbitrary as a, cooling scalp therapy to say like, oh, what is this? This is easy to write off and maybe it's cosmetic. it is still a part of the kind of healing process that
Yeah.
you were, navigating as you battle cancer. So I love reading that as well.
I think folks' dignity is so important. And I think things like cancer are things that people don't talk about at work even. Sometimes people keep things like details of like that really private. And for whatever reason, because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, because they're afraid it could make them look weak. So different types of illnesses, I think people downplay at work. And I think that this can allow folks to potentially feel like they have more dignity, so they can feel just like, I guess, better respected, and sort of bring that energy so they don't have to feel like they downplay this at work. I don't
Yeah,
think I
because
was
when
very
you
articulate just then.
that's I got it. Because when say you get a diagnosis of cancer or some type of terminal illness, the light that you once had or felt, it just feels like it just gets dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and then you have an expiration date. So when you have a tool or a mechanism or something that you can offer somebody like the scalp cooling therapy and it be included in insurance and all of those things, it allows that light to stay on a little bit longer, if not get brighter, So the humanity of it all is what we need more of.
Love it. All right. We need all sorts of more kinds of humanity, right? In all aspects. All right, the third story this week comes from e.l.f. Beauty, where the CEO defended DEI as a business imperative and reaffirmed that corporate inclusion is part of performance. Gave some data about firms with above average gender diversity outperforming peers, and talking about e.l.f.'s board being particularly diverse. And I just think it's so important for CEOs to be speaking out about this stuff right now. So props to e.l.f.
Yeah, that makes me feel a whole lot better about a lip scrub that I just bought from them. Because I feel like oftentimes the uninformed see DEI as race.
Yeah.
If we are lucky, they will throw in gender, but it is oftentimes seen as race. And because of that, it's racialized to the point where DEI doesn't matter. And that says that people's races and identity doesn't matter. But when you look at the facts and figures and the data that they have showed to defend the statements and the benefits that it has, not only to the workplace culture, but the business like optimization and revenue, that is almost a crucial element of all organizations to focus on the equity and inclusion aspects of DEI as well. So
absolutely. Absolutely right. Okay, and especially, and equity is what's particularly under attack right now. All right, the fourth story this week is about the video game Relooted. So this is a heist game that allows players to recover stolen African artifacts from Western museums. So this is about reclaiming African heritage. Now, Western museums, 90% of is where 90% of sub-Saharan Western museums is where 90% of sub-Saharan heritage is held. So activism is built right into gameplay.
Yes, this is like educationally creative, right? Games can just be fun and mindless activity, but you hear like, oh well, all these bad things that come from just playing video games. They're inundated with whatever information, but this also allows you to play something that's fun and engaging and interactive, but also learn something. So I like the idea of the reclamation behind it. And I mean, I haven't played video games in I don't know how long, but this is something that I really would tap back in for. So I'm like, oh, okay, I see a purpose behind this. So I thought it was creative.
Absolutely. So creative. These are the things I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about, right? And I think that there are a lot of folks who don't. And it's important to have, sort of this reminder and to have some fun while learning. Absolutely. All right. The last story this week comes from the Church of England, which finally elected its first female Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally. So this is making history in a role nearly 1,500 years old. Now, Mullally is a former nurse and the first female bishop of London. And that church has a lot of deep divisions. So it's going to be really interesting to see how her leadership is tested, but it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is. And to the point of being tested, I feel like there's some excitement always around being the first of something, but then it is a ton of unfair expectations often put on the person that is the first in doing something. So will she solve all of, the Church of England's problems, quote unquote? Probably not, but that wasn't or shouldn't have been the case for anybody in that position.
Exactly.
But I'm all for, some innovative approaches and innovative things. And that just really means new. So with her being the first of a long line of men that came before her, there will be a different perspective. And I do hope that it's a positive one for them.
I hope so. Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of women are sort of put into roles when there's a crisis and they're essentially set up to fail. It's called the glass cliff. They get appointed and then, fired 10 months later, a year or two later. And it's pretty stressful. I would imagine we see that happening in corporate America a lot. So let's hope that there's some really amazing positive change that happens in the Church of England. All right. Well, let's move into this week's Good Vibes to Go. I'll share my good vibe to go and then invite you to share your good vibe to go. All right, so my good vibe to go is to watch Famous Last Words on Netflix featuring Jane Goodall. So she passed a few weeks ago, leaving behind an amazing legacy. And if you want some hope, check out her Famous Last Words. She doesn't hold back. And also, just as a reminder, it is Indigenous Peoples Day today. So I wanted to remind folks to check out the sitcom North of North on Netflix. I mentioned it before, but it is really great. All right, Donald, what is your good vibe to go?
I really had to think about this and it popped into my head. I heard somebody say to me a week ago to stay unconventional. And as somebody who is a little left of center sometimes, and I don't always like to follow the identified path or this linear approach, I was affirmed in the fact that I could stay unconventional and still be okay and still be progressive and still be successful. So whatever you define, typical as, think about another side to that cube and be that. So yeah, just remain unconventional. We need more differences. We need more color in the world. So just do that.
I love it. It's great advice. I think this show is a little unconventional. And I'll tell you, it's hard to find the stories these days.
Yeah.
But I'm committed to the unconventionality of it all. Shining that light. So thanks for the reminder, Donald. How can folks get in touch with you?
So I do have a podcast, the Just Checking In podcast, and you can tap into that on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. On LinkedIn, Donald D. Gilliam. And then you can also check out joincriticalcollective.com to learn more about Critical Collective, which is our social engagement organization here based in Chicago.
Love it. Thanks, Donald. Well, folks, if you don't already get the 5 Things newsletter, you can subscribe at 5thingsdei.com. Thanks for listening to 5 Things, Good Vibes in DEI. If today's stories gave you hope or sparked an idea, share this episode with a colleague or a friend. And if you want to spread more good vibes, leave a quick rating or review. It helps others find their proof of positive change.